The sea did not roar at that depth. It whispered. Metal hummed around him, low and constant, as if the ocean were pressing its mouth against the hull and breathing in. Commander Rowan Cade sat strapped at his console inside the research submarine Marlin, thumbs sliding across readouts, eyes flicking between numbers and green-lit graphs. Steel above, pressure outside, silence within. It was the kind of environment where a human voice felt almost out of place. The others spoke in short bursts when they had to. Depth, bearing, systems check. That was it. Anything more felt wasteful down here, like throwing words into an abyss that never gave them back. Rowan liked it that way. The deeper he went, the less the world could reach him, or so he had thought. The first vibration wasn't from the hull. It was from his pocket. He frowned. The submarine's internal network allowed limited delayed data bursts when they were near the undersea cable route, but personal messages rarely slipped through during operations. He shifted his weight, careful not to bump any controls, and checked the tiny signal icon. 1 bar. Faint. Fickle. A notification banner froze mid-scroll on his wrist display. A push alert from a streaming app he barely remembered installing. Live now. Sunset Reckoning. Private stream. The thumbnail was small and grainy, but his brain recognized the shape before his eyes caught up. His daughter's front porch. Rowan's pulse picked up once, then leveled. Years of training pressed it flat again. A recorded memory landed on top of it. The way she had teased him about that porch when he helped her sand and stain it. "You know this is overkill for a little mountain house, right?" he'd said. "Dad," she'd replied, laughing. "If you're going to visit twice a year, I at least want you to like the view. Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe the channel and let me know in the comments where are you watching from. It helps more than you know." The faint humor of that memory evaporated as the thumbnail refreshed. This time there were people in it. 8 figures, young, expensive, careless in the way only wealthy sons learn to be. Designer jackets, perfect hair. One of them holding a phone out at arm's length, grinned sharp and hungry for attention. Rowan tapped the alert. The stream struggled to load over the thin line of intermittent bandwidth the submarine stole as it crawled along the ocean floor. Pixels smeared, froze, then snapped into clarity for a second. His daughter's door, her porch light, her silhouette through stained glass, and those 8 men on her steps. Rowan's jaw tightened. The overlay chat on the screen moved too fast to read. Emojis, laughter, a few horrified comments drowned out by people who thought everything was content as long as it wasn't happening to them. "You sure she's alone?" one of the young men asked, voice too loud, too confident. "Her dad's on a boat somewhere, right?" another said, laughing. "Relax, this is just a wake-up call." A third leaned into the camera. "Welcome to the Sunset Reckoning, everyone. Tonight's lesson? Actions have consequences." Rowan's hands stayed exactly where they were, floating above the console, not touching a single switch. Only his breathing changed, slightly deeper, slightly slower. On the stream, his daughter opened the door. She was not a child. She hadn't been for a long time. She wore a sweatshirt and jeans, hair pulled back, expression puzzled but not afraid yet. She recognized one of them. That was worse than strangers. Rowan watched as she stepped out onto the porch, said something he couldn't hear when the audio glitched, then tried to close the door again. One of the men blocked it with his foot and smiled directly into the camera as if the lens were more important than the human being in front of him. The chat exploded. Rowan's thumb hovered over the interface, searching for anything useful. Location tag, emergency flag, even a report button that might do something in time. Nothing down here was in time. In the control section, the pilot glanced back. "Everything good, Commander?" Rowan swallowed. His voice came out even. "Stay on course." He could feel the clock starting. On the stream, one of the billionaire's sons, Rowan recognized the last name from financial news he used to ignore, shoved her shoulder lightly, just enough to move her. Just enough to test how much resistance felt like safety. The camera angle shifted. Viewers spammed laughing reactions at a house they would never visit, a woman they would never meet, a situation they would never take responsibility for. The submarine crept forward in the dark, dragging its cable sensor array like a net. Rowan was trapped in a steel shell hundreds of meters below the surface, watching 8 young men treat his daughter's life like a live event. The officer at communications spoke up. "We have a 6-hour window to complete this pass, Commander. After that, we surface or lose the route." 6 hours. 6 hours until he could reach her himself. 6 hours for those sons of rich men to decide how far they wanted their performance to go. Rowan's eyes never left the tiny, glitching screen. He wasn't helpless. Not entirely. The undersea cable they were mapping connected continents, and tonight it connected him to 8 people who thought no one could touch them. As the submarine crawled through the dark and the live stream climbed in viewer count, Rowan realized he had exactly one advantage. He was sitting inside the system that carried their signal, and he had 6 hours to turn their own connection into a weapon. Rowan Cade did not panic. Panic was loud. Panic was sloppy. Panic tripped over itself and made worst-case scenarios come true. He had lived enough life to know that survival was built on calculation. The pilot adjusted trim on the submarine's lateral fins. "Commander, we need you at the next junction. Mapping team's waiting." Rowan didn't answer for a moment. The live stream flickered again. The camera was moving now, held by someone walking following his daughter inside without permission. His daughter tried to block the frame with her hand, voice rising, but the audio warped under pressure and signal drop. Rowan's thumb hovered over pause. He couldn't stop watching. He couldn't afford to. He forced himself to lock the display and stood. "I need a secure channel," he said. The pilot blinked. "We don't have—" "We do," Rowan interrupted. "It's just not labeled." There was a reason a man like Rowan ended up in a submarine that wasn't operated by the Navy anymore. There were things he knew that weren't in manuals and codes the ocean hadn't forgotten him for. Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe the channel and let me know in the comments where are you watching from. It helps more than you know. He moved to the auxiliary console. An old steel-framed bank of monitors patched together around newer tech like bones inside muscle. He opened a diagnostic port and typed a string of commands that weren't meant for public use. The pilot turned fully now. "Sir, that's not protocol." Rowan didn't look up. "I'm aware." He rerouted the boat's uplink permissions. Not to break into civilian systems that would leave fingerprints, but to borrow access along the cable's maintenance frequencies. If he could ride the line the way the submarine rode the trench, he could reach out. Not to stop the stream. Not yet. To see more. A map blinked to life. The live stream metadata finally resolved, hesitant, broken, but readable. Coordinates, origin point, device ID, service provider, a private network, off-grid on the property, boosted by a satellite repeater, not amateur, not impulsive. They came prepared for attention. Rowan's jaw set. He tapped a sequence that generated a route, digital instead of physical, toward the repeater's host node. If he was lucky, he could get within 3 hops of the security feed before the submarine cleared the cable's influence. Luck wasn't reliable. Skill was. He used skill. On screen, the live stream camera tilted as his daughter tried to push past. One of them. Another stepped into frame, smiling like the lens had gravity and he was the moon caught in it. "This is just a reaction video," he said. "Relax, your dad's not watching." Rowan's chest tightened. Not with fear. With precision. He spoke without raising his voice. "Navigation. Can we hold depth for 15 minutes? "No," the pilot said. Then, after a beat, "But we can slow descent." "Do it," Rowan said. She slowed the vessel. The hum changed pitch. The hull creaked softly like the ocean was clearing its throat. Rowan returned his attention to the display. If he could reach the node, he could tunnel. If he could tunnel, he could access something better than a live stream. Security logs, network-attached storage, backup cameras. If the house had a system, and billionaires always had systems, he could watch the room they were in. He entered one more command. The screen split. 4 feeds popped open like eyes. Front door, kitchen, living room, and hallway. His daughter was in the hallway. A young man was blocking her path with one hand on the wall, phone raised in the other. She tried to move. He mirrored. Performance, not protection. Posture borrowed from fiction. Rowan's knuckles pressed white against the console. One of the other feeds caught a different detail. A backpack on the entry table. Open. Inside, small cases, shapes of tech that didn't match harmless intentions. Rowan zoomed. The cases held vials, not alcohol, not medicine. Compressed aerosol, color-coded caps, chemical irritants. They weren't just live-streaming humiliation, they had plans. He opened the submarine's internal mic system. "Bridge to operations," he said. "I need the closest emergency surface vector to Mount Ellis, Oregon." The voice that answered was confused. "Commander, that's inland. Closest surface vector," he repeated. "They found it. 6 hours. 5 hours and 56 minutes now." Rowan checked the network path again. The signal would drop soon. He had to plant something before he lost access. He injected a trace, a ghost, a presence that didn't act, didn't ping, didn't trip alarms, just waited. If they switched rooms, he would know. If they cut cameras, he would know. If they left the house, he would know. One of the sons bumped the phone, and for a second his face filled the frame. Arrogant, expensive, raised on consequences, outsourced to lawyers. He said something Rowan didn't catch. But the chat did. "He's on a submarine, LOL. He can't save her. This is content." Rowan's breathing stayed level. He closed the display, not to stop watching, to start planning. He looked at the pilot. "Once we surface, I need immediate evac to the coast." The pilot hesitated. "Commander, that's ours." Rowan finally met her eyes. "Then we don't waste any." As the submarine inched forward and the live stream escalated, Rowan realized the first battle wouldn't be fought in his daughter's home. It would be fought in transit, turning every second of those 6 hours into a weapon sharper than anything those sons had ever imagined. The ocean changed personality as they rose. Pressure faded. Water thinned. The hull didn't groan anymore. It listened. Every metal plate felt tuned to Rowan Cade's heart rate. He stood at the central console, wrist display still linked to the compromised stream. The pictures stuttered, buffering between worlds like the signal was climbing the water column alongside them. 5 hours and 41 minutes left. Rowan recalibrated his breathing to that number. Behind him, the pilot spoke without turning. "Surface in 19 minutes, weather choppy." Rowan watched the updates on the trace. It showed movement. The sons weren't staying in the hallway anymore. They were touring the house, narrating it like a walkthrough for an audience that didn't care about layout. Only cruelty. Kitchen, living room, her studio, his daughter's studio. Paints, canvases, brushes sorted by size. A table he had built her one summer, each joint carved by hand. They found it. They ran their fingers over it. One of them picked up a carving tool and laughed. Before he could think, Rowan's hand clenched. He let go. Rowan knew what these boys were, predators born in safe rooms, teeth sharpened by immunity. Their fathers weren't kings. They were markets. Their sons didn't make threats. They commissioned them. Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe the channel and let me know in the comments what time it is where you are watching from. It helps more than you know. The submarine breached with a shudder. Foam cascaded past the observation windows, sunlight knifing in like a blade. Too bright after hours in the dark. Deck alarms sounded. The pilot throttled back. Rowan grabbed his go bag and strapped it across his chest. The pilot stared at him. "Commander, what you're doing? It's not a mission, it's personal." Rowan didn't pause. Some missions start that way. The hatch opened to a world in motion. Wind-whipping waves, rotor wash from a transport waiting above, blades beating the air into submission. Someone in a weatherproof jacket waved him forward. "Orders came through for expedited evac," they shouted. Didn't say who requested it. Rowan climbed aboard. The helicopter lifted. Spray fell away like broken glass. The ocean shrank. Rowan checked the feed again. Another update. The sons had split up. 3 in the living room, 2 in the hallway, 3 outside on her property, searching. They were looking for something, or someone, or permission. The chat scrolled faster now. "Is she crying yet? Drag her outside. Make her beg." 6 hours isn't enough time for him. Rowan muted the chat. He didn't mute the world. The pilot leaned over. "ETA to shore, 73 minutes. Rowan did the math like a heartbeat. 5 hours and 41 minutes became 4 hours and 28. He opened the secure channel again. He could still ride the trace, still see through the house, but not for long. A voice answered. The man from the agency. The one who watched from shadows by choice. "You're moving," the voice said. Not a question. You knew, Rowan replied. No, the man said, but we knew about them. Sons of the Luxworth Circle, tech conglomerates, private equity, communication assets in 6 countries. When wealthy people build empires, they sometimes forget to build heirs. They build creatures instead. Rowan closed his eyes. How far will they go? That depends on you, the man said. They're not harming her yet. They're getting reactions. They need fuel. They won't get any, Rowan said. You can't cut the stream, the man said. It'll trigger a narrative they control. Then we take their narrative away. How? Rowan watched the next update blink on his display. One of them was in her workshop. He found her phone. He was reading her messages. He found Rowan's name. The boy smirked at the camera. He's not coming, he told the viewers. He doesn't even know. Rowan whispered one word into the mic. Wrong. The voice on the line exhaled like a prayer. What are you planning? Rowan answered plainly. I'm going to make sure they understand something money can't buy. And what's that? Rowan looked out over the horizon, the line where sea met sky, the path to land racing beneath the rotors. Consequences, he said. The helicopter banked hard, the coastline appearing ahead. Rowan tightened the straps on his bag until they bit into his shoulders. He had been a lot of things in his life. Son, brother, submarine commander, ghost in the wires of underwater communication. But today, for the first time, he understood that every one of those identities had been training for this moment. He wasn't going home. He was going to war. As the helicopter cut across the sky and the live stream poisoned the world 1 pixel at a time, Rowan realized the battle wasn't just to save his daughter. It was to destroy the illusion that these sons were untouchable, and he had 4 hours left to tear their world apart. The helicopter skimmed low over the coastline, blades tearing the morning air into jagged pieces. Below them, pine forests blurred into streaks, rivers reflecting sunlight like broken mirrors. Rowan Cade stared straight ahead, replaying the last update from the trace in his mind. 4 hours left. The live stream feed had fractured into fragments, audio ahead of video, video skipping seconds at a time. The algorithm was struggling to maintain a broadcast from a private estate in the foothills of Mount Ellis. But money made strange things possible. Their father's money made everything possible. Rowan's heart didn't race. His breathing didn't spike. That part of him had been trained out a lifetime ago. But something unfamiliar burned in the space where fear should have been. He looked like a man preparing to dock a submarine in a storm. He felt like something else. The pilot called out over the headset, "Landing zone in 2 minutes. There's a vehicle staged, unmarked. Keys in the visor, someone high up wants you mobile." Rowan didn't ask who. He didn't need to. The helicopter touched down in a swirl of dust and pine needles. Rowan jumped before it settled, boots hitting earth, bag slamming against his back. The craft lifted the moment his hand left the skid, disappearing toward the horizon. A black SUV waited on a dirt service road. Rowan slid inside, started the engine, and checked the trace again. The boys were no longer wandering. They were waiting. Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe the channel and let me know in the comments what time it is where you are watching from. It helps more than you know. The stream was angled now, tripod mounted, framed intentionally. Someone had adjusted the lighting in the living room. Someone had placed chairs. Someone had staged the space like an interview or an interrogation. His daughter sat in one of those chairs, hands bound, ankles tied, eyes open but not broken. Rowan tightened his grip on the wheel until leather creaked. One of the billionaire's sons stepped into frame. Expensive watch. Smile sharp enough to bleed on. His voice carried the smoothness of a PR-trained heir. "Welcome back, everyone. We're trending in 12 countries. Even better, Daddy Cade is watching." Comments exploded across the screen. "He'll never make it in time. She's content now. Bet he's crying underwater. Money, military." Rowan muted them. He didn't need their voices. He needed their patterns. He zoomed in on the boy's jacket, the lapel pin, a crest, Luxworth Industries, shareholders in 3 defense contractors, parent company owning 2 social media giants, money, access, infrastructure, all the things Rowan could use against them if he survived the next 4 hours. He opened the secure channel again. "I need eyes on the Luxworth Holdings grid. specifically their private fiber lines into Mount Ellis. The voice from earlier sounded startled. "Those aren't public. We don't have clearance to—" "I'm not asking for permission," Rowan said. "I'm asking for coordinates." Silence. Then, "Sending now. Cade, don't do anything that makes this irreversible." Rowan ended the call. The SUV roared up the mountain road, tires spitting gravel. The forest rose around him like cathedral walls, branches clawing at the sky. Sunlight stuttered across the windshield, breaking his face into flashes of light and shadow. He checked the feed again. The boys had begun their performance. They asked questions, they demanded reactions, they wanted her to cry, to plead, to validate them with fear. And every time she spat silence back at them, their smiles cracked just a little. One of them leaned forward, gripping her chin. "Your dad was supposed to be here. Turns out he traded you for a research project." Rowan's daughter blinked slowly. Then steady. "My father doesn't trade people." The son flicked her cheek like she was a pet refusing to obey. "Everyone has a price." Rowan's blood cooled by degrees. He slowed the SUV and pulled off the road. Pine needles crushed under the tires. He shut off the engine. The forest swallowed the sound. He opened his bag. Inside, a compact breather mask, thermal gloves, a coil of fiber-tapping filament, a device no civilian should own, an induction shunt for live networks. Rowan stepped out of the SUV and started walking. He followed the mountain's spine, GPS guiding him to the Luxworth fiber relay node, a relay station disguised as an old ranger outpost. Faded paint, broken windows, a lie built on nostalgia. He slipped inside. Dust hung in the air like memory. Rowan knelt beside an industrial cabinet humming with power. He stripped the panel open and stared at the private fiber trunk, 3 lines entering a secured switch, a direct artery to the estate. He slipped on the gloves and attached the filament, feeding it through until— connection. His display blinked. Admin access seed accepted, uplink passive replication mode engaged. He didn't need to hack them, he just needed to mirror them. If they deleted the stream, he'd still have it. If they cut power, he'd still have it. If they tried to deny what they did, the world wouldn't let them. He would make sure of it. He rose, sealing the cabinet. A rustle behind him. Rowan turned. One of the sons stood in the doorway. Not from the house, from the forest. A rifle hung loose in his hands, not aimed, not ready. Just present, casual, like an accessory meant to signal belonging. "So," the boy said, voice unsteady, "you really did come." Rowan didn't move, didn't speak. The boy swallowed. "You have no idea what you just stepped into." Rowan stepped forward once, just once. The boy flinched so hard the rifle clattered to the floor. Rowan's voice was ice with a heartbeat. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." As the boy stumbled backward and Rowan walked out of the relay station, fiber trace active and the mountain falling toward the estate below, he understood the truth. Money built their world, but connection held it together, and he had just taken control of the wires that kept it alive. The forest thinned as Rowan Cade descended toward the estate. Branches snapped beneath his boots, frost breaking like glass under footfalls that did not hurry. The relay station was behind him, humming with stolen access, duplicating every packet of data those sons thought they controlled. 3 hours and 19 minutes. He checked the trace. The feed showed the boys rearranging the living room again, adjusting angles, repositioning his daughter like a prop. They kept talking to the camera, pretending the situation was entertainment instead of escalation. Except now the chat had changed tone. Screenshots from the mirrored stream had begun circulating. Viewers were arguing. Some recognized the Luxworth crest. A few claimed they knew the family. Others joked it was all staged. And then, threaded between the noise, 3 words appeared again and again like a heartbeat. "Cade is coming." Rowan closed the display. He didn't need motivation. He needed time. The estate came into view like a wound carved into the mountain. A mansion that didn't blend into the landscape but conquered it. Glass walls, steel patios, a driveway lit by imported lanterns and the glow of wealth that thought it could bend the world into shape. Rowan stopped at the tree line. He watched. Movement by the gate. 2 boys standing there, pretending a tablet made them security experts. They glanced around with the hollow confidence of people who had never needed to fear anything in their lives. Rowan adjusted the straps on his bag. Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe the channel and let me know in the comments what time it is where you are watching from. It helps more than you know. He didn't walk to the gate. He walked to the ground-level junction box that fed it. He slid open the panel, pulled the induction shunt from his bag, and depressed the trigger. The lights along the driveway flickered once, then twice, then died. The boys at the gate panicked. One dropped the tablet. The other fumbled for his phone. Rowan stepped out of the trees. The boy raised his voice. "Get back! We know who you are!" Rowan stopped just close enough for his voice to carry. "My daughter," he said calmly, "asked you to leave." Silence. Rowan took another step. "You should have listened." The boys retreated without needing to be told. They weren't fighters. They were accessories. They'd sold their cruelty in the comments section and were now realizing the bill was due. Rowan moved past them and entered the estate. 3 hours left. He crossed the courtyard and opened the door to the lower level. The house was a cathedral of polished surfaces and curated art, designed to impress people who valued price over meaning. Rowan's boots left wet prints on the floor. He checked the trace again. Living room, studio, garage. 2 boys were missing from the feed. That mattered. He swept the hallway with his eyes, noting angles, exits, choke points. The house was built for hosting, not survival. Too many open lines of sight, too many reflective surfaces. He moved forward. In the kitchen, one of the boys froze mid-step, holding a phone. He dropped it like it burned him. You can't be here," the boy stammered. Rowan didn't raise his voice. "Where is she?" The boy pointed without meaning to. Rowan passed him like weather, something unstoppable and without malice, but entirely indifferent to what it moved through. As he approached the living room, he heard scratching, breathing, a camera being adjusted. The boys inside were preparing something. He knew because he had done the same thing once, a lifetime ago, when missions required evidence and timing meant survival. He paused at the door. He didn't enter. He opened the mirrored feed. They were waiting for him. 8 chairs. His daughter in the center, the suns around her like planets orbiting violence. The ringleader stood nearest to her, camera trained on the door. He was smiling. Rowan understood. They weren't trying to stop him. They were trying to catch him, on stream in front of millions, turning him into a villain, a vigilante, a war criminal in a suburban home. A father made into a weapon on camera. They wanted content. He looked up at the ceiling. Sprinklers. A domestic suppression system connected to the estate's private water main. Rowan walked calmly to the utility closet, opened the panel, and bypassed the flow regulator. Not to flood, not to burn, just to trip the sensors. The sprinkler heads deployed in the living room without a flame. Chaos erupted. Electronics sparked. Tripods toppled. Audio screeched. The stream crashed under the weight of short-circuiting equipment. The ringleader screamed something off camera. Rowan walked back toward the door. He put his hand on it. Paused. "Enough," he said. He pushed it open. Water fell in sheets, cutting the room into fragments. The boys scrambled, slipping, blinded. His daughter blinked up through the rain, eyes widening with relief and disbelief. Then, a clatter. Behind him, Rowan turned. The 2 missing boys. They weren't empty-handed, and they weren't waiting for content. As Rowan squared himself between his daughter and the sons who thought money was a shield, he realized the final 3 hours wouldn't just decide who survived the night. They would decide who the world believed. The 2 missing sons stepped forward, blocking the hallway with shoulders squared and intentions sharpened. Water continued to fall from the ceiling, dripping rhythmically onto the hardwood. The sprinkler system hissed like the house itself was furious. Rowan Cage shifted his stance, not to fight, but to absorb the room. 2 behind him, 6 in front, and his daughter bound in the center. If he rushed in, they could claim self-defense. If he hesitated, they could escalate. Every option was a trap. Rowan had never feared traps. He feared wasting time. 3 hours had become 2 hours and 40. One of the new arrivals stepped forward, voice trembling with forced bravado. "You really think you can fix this? You're already a criminal. Livestream sees everything." Rowan didn't look at him. He looked at the ringleader, the one who started it all. The one still clutching the camera like it was a lifeline, like attention was oxygen. That boy lifted his chin. "Do it," Hit me, touch any of us, the world will watch your life end in real time. Rowan exhaled. Slow, silent. He stepped aside, not forward, aside. The boys blinked, confused. Rowan knelt next to his daughter, fingers working the knots that bound her wrists. He didn't hide the movement, didn't rush it. He made sure every camera, especially the ones he had mirrored, saw exactly what he was doing. No aggression, no threat, no violence. Just a father cutting rope. One of the sons lunged forward but stopped when the ringleader hissed, "Wait! If he doesn't touch us, we can't twist it." Rowan helped his daughter stand. Her lip trembled. Her voice didn't. "Dad." He nodded once. "We're going home." The ringleader barked a laugh. "Home? You're not leaving. We call the police, you go to prison, you broke into a Luxworth property, you hacked a network. You tampered with our infrastructure." Rowan didn't look at him. He was guiding his daughter to the edge of the room, hands steady. "The police were notified," Rowan said. 2 hours and 6 minutes ago." Confusion rippled across their faces. "By who?" one demanded. Rowan met the ringleader's eyes for the first time. "Your network logs will show. Your assistant connected a flagged device to a private server. Mandatory reporting. Federal systems don't care who your fathers are." One of the boys fumbled for a phone. No signal. Rowan's voice stayed level. "Your private satellite repeater uplinked to a federal node when you boosted the stream. You broadcasted crimes over international channels. Even if I never came home, this ends." Panic split their confidence open. Rowan's daughter clutched his arm. "We should go." Rowan nodded. They walked toward the door. The ringleader snapped, "Stop them!" No one moved. The myth had broken. These boys weren't warriors, they weren't predators, they weren't anything without an audience. Rowan paused at the threshold. He didn't turn back. "When the world stops clapping," he said, "the stage collapses." The house shook, footsteps on the deck outside, sirens cutting through the mountain air, a helicopter spotlight slicing across floor-to-ceiling windows. Rowan and his daughter stepped outside as law enforcement stormed in. He didn't talk to the officers, he didn't explain. He didn't relive the hours trapped underwater, racing against the clock. He just placed his hands behind his head, knelt in the mud and waited. His daughter yelled, "He saved me!" The officers didn't listen. Protocol first. Rowan didn't resist. He knew how systems worked. He knew justice wasn't instant. He knew the next hours would be interviews, containment, procedures. He looked at his daughter. Her hands were free now. She stood between the floodlights and the forest like someone stepping between worlds. He smiled. Not much. Just enough for her to see it. Then, a voice cut across the chaos. "Commander Cade!" The agency contact. The man walked up, flashing credentials that made officers freeze and adjust posture. He leaned down to Rowan and whispered, "You didn't do this alone, and you won't face it alone." Rowan rose. The ringleader was being walked out in cuffs, face twisted with disbelief that consequences had found him. Rowan didn't look away. He guided his daughter to the waiting vehicle. She leaned her head on his shoulder. He wrapped an arm around her like he hadn't since she was small. They drove down the mountain together. The sun was rising. The live stream was already being torn offline. Screenshots saved, legal teams mobilizing, investigations starting. Rowan didn't care. He cared about the pulse of his daughter's heartbeat against his arm. He cared that she was alive. He cared that money had met its match. And for the first time since he watched that stream begin beneath the ocean, Rowan Cade finally let himself feel the weight of survival. Not guilt, not rage, relief. And if you've been listening this far, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments what time it is where you're watching from. It helps more than you know.